Hello, friends. I'm Samantha Swaim. I am with Swaim Strategies, and we are fundraising event planners that have been working with the nonprofit sector for over 20 years now, producing over 700 events. And on the 12th and 13th of March, coming up in just a little short time, we have a 2-day deep dive hybrid event into fundraising event school for your nonprofit. And as a precursor to that, we offer 4 free webinars just to give you a light touch building block for you to be able to come to the conference with some information. If you aren't already registered for the conference, this is a great little teaser about the upcoming event. If you are registered, we look forward to having you there. We have some incredible partners that'll be joining us at the conference. And we have a little preview video about what to expect at the conference before I dive into our topic today, which is the paddle raise for your fundraising event. So let's take a quick look at Elevate the conference.
Unleash the power of events to energize your donors and amplify your mission. Join us at the Elevate Conference in 2025, where you'll learn the essential tools for planning a successful fundraising event. Book your tickets now for March 12th and 13th. This dynamic hybrid conference, hosted at Avenue in Portland, Oregon, and streamed live for our virtual audience, will equip you with practical tools, demos, and templates that you can put to work immediately. Don't miss out. Secure your spot today at Elevate 2025. Visit elevatenonprofit.com to register now. Elevate Conference 2025 is brought to you by Swaim Strategies and the AV Department, powered by elevatenonprofit.com.
There we go. This 2-day event will be a fundraising event school covering all the basics for your fundraising event on day 1, and then we'll dive into higher end concepts for you to really take your event to the next level on day 2. We hope you will join us. We have some incredible keynote speakers, including our awesome MC and DJ joining us this year. And all of our speakers are bringing lots of deep expertise. They've all been working in fundraising events for a long time, including some great panels. We're going to talk about designing meaningful events. We're going to talk about soliciting donors and sponsors. We're going to dive into marketing for your event, especially digital marketing right now, how much social media has changed. And we're going to talk about the auction evolution. So we hope you will join us. We also have a podcast available for you every week. It is a deep dive into all things fundraising and nonprofits. Kristen and I host that podcast, and it is released with new episodes weekly everywhere that you find your podcast episodes. Well, today we're going to talk about the paddle raise. One of the number one questions that we get from folks is, how do I start a paddle raise? How do I adopt a paddle raise for the first time in my fundraising event? And as we dive into that, I want to also talk a little bit about why a paddle raise, because I think that it is one of the most important elements of a fundraising event. It is often the piece of the event that makes or breaks the event for the organization. And yet we still find so many organizations are not leveraging this massively appealing moment in fundraising. So first, a little bit just diving into the revenue opportunities that we have with events. We typically have 2 types of revenue with fundraising events. We have that type of revenue that is very relationship focused, that really leverages on people, leverages on people sort of knowing your work, showcasing their support for your cause. And oftentimes we see that relationship revenue growing year after year after year. We'll see a $100 donor become a $500 donor, become a $1,000 donor over the course of attending your event multiple years in a row. Then we also find that there's a lot of transactional giving that can come with events. That transactional giving tends to be very labor intensive and low dollar yield. And so we are finding that folks have been moving away from transactional giving, especially as generational shifts have occurred and value of what's most important to donors has evolved. We are seeing among millennial and Gen Z donors, especially, that giving directly to mission is the thing that's most important to them and resonates the most with them. They're less interested in stuff. And so there's been a huge shift for folks to focus their fundraising events more on that relationship-based revenue than the transactional revenue. And in that shift, that special appeal or the opportunity to raise funds through a paddle raise is your biggest fundraising moment that you have associated with the event at all. So we want to give you some basics about how to plan for that and how to integrate one. First of all, the thing that's really beneficial about the paddle raise is that this is an opportunity for you to raise unrestricted funding. So some people call it a special appeal, some people call it paddle raise. We've heard it called a lot of things, but that direct ask for donation allows for you to raise funds for your mission. And we want to encourage you to do that. We want to encourage you to leverage this really special opportunity to be mission specific and not to be a dive into things like we're raising money for a particular item for our mission, like we're raising money for the playground or we're raising money for the athletic team. We want it to be specific to we're raising money for us, our organization, because unrestricted funding is so hard to come across that this becomes a unique opportunity for folks to really fund what's needed most in the mission. Now, Susan Howlett is a researcher at University of Washington, and she's done quite a bit of research into what motivates people to give. And I think we all believe that folks give because they believe in the work. And that's true. That's a big part of it. But also there are two other areas about what motivates people to give. Making a difference with the mission is just one component. In fact, it's the third in the priority value ranking of why people give. The first is to be a part of something, that collective action, sense of community, being a part of something bigger than yourself. And the second is to be known or recognized, seen as a good person in community, supporting community. And that really speaks to the fact that a paddle raise is our moment in an event where we can do all three of these things. When someone raises their paddle and says, yeah, I support this cause, they're demonstrating collective action. They are demonstrating recognition. An auctioneer might recognize them from the stage, either their name or their paddle number. The room applauds. Other people at the table see them raise their paddle. So it is a single moment that allows us to do all three of these things that really motivates giving. And when Chronicle Philanthropy surveyed donors and asked them their preferred method for giving, it was determined that 85% of donors prefer to give at an event. Really, the preference dials back to Susan Howlett's research of those three reasons why people give. But when interviewed by Chronicle of Philanthropy, they said that they get the social benefit and the ego benefit. The social benefit is the networking opportunity, and the ego benefit is the public recognition opportunity. And a paddle raise moment is a moment that allows both of these things to happen. So what's involved in a paddle raise? How do you do one? How do you adopt one? Well, the first thing that you need is to think about your program elements in how to build and start to create energy toward that paddle raise. So paddle raise has three key elements. First, a story. It always has to start with a story because as humans, we are neurologically hardwired to learn through story. We feel empathy through story. We feel connection through story. And while I may not have experienced the things that your clients experience, a story allows me to understand the impact that you have. Now, it can't just be any story. It needs to be one person's story that is impacted by your mission. So an impact story where you can see how your organization changed someone's trajectory. Ultimately, this is a hero's journey story in which you as the organization are the change agent, the moment of opportunity to make something come true for your client. Then, after they tell the story, you want a direct call to action or an ask. This can happen from the storyteller. That's always the most compelling, but it can also come from your host or your auctioneer that simply indicates to your audience, now is your time to participate and you can make a difference. And finally, a collection, a strategic opportunity to leverage support in the room and have a clear, easy way for people to participate in. Now, interestingly enough, Paul Zak is a social scientist who's done a lot of research into what creates lifelong connection or buy-in to a product, a mission, an organization. How do you find those people that are just like regular donors who support your mission because they believe so strongly in it? And one of those key elements was that gathering needed to have an easy way to participate. It needed to have a way to feel like they could impact the work without having to be an expert in the work. And this paddle raise moment, this collection, is a chance to do that. Now, where we see folks go wrong most with their paddle raise is that they put the fundraising ask at the very end of the night. After they've told all their stories and connected donors to all their work, they put it at the end of the night. But unfortunately, what happens so often at the end of the night is that we see this natural group dynamic arc where at some point in the evening, their energy starts to diminish and they start to think about what they have to do next. So we always want our fundraising to be at the height of the energy, not at the end of the night when the energy is low. So I encourage you to take a look at the webinar with Kristen Steele about the fundraising event arc. She will help you understand how to design your story, because your story is such an important part of your event, that short program that really helps people understand who you are, what you do, and raises money for your cause. Now, when you start to raise those paddles, there's a few key rules to follow. One is that you want to start high and go low. If you give everyone that opportunity to feel ooey, warm, and gushy inside of the story, and then to show their support, if you open it at a low dollar amount, everyone's joining at that low dollar amount. They've now successfully felt included, a part of something, recognized, impact on mission, and it's really hard to move people up from there. But if you start high, you move those impulse donors to jump in early, but we always recommend that you have some momentum naturally built in. So we always want to know our first gift. Never do we want to start at a dollar amount where we don't know we have a paddle in the air. So part of our planning strategy is to always identify someone who is our lead donor, whether that's a $500 gift and you're going down from there, or a $5,000 gift and you're going down from there. We always want to know who our first donor is and assure that their paddle is going up. The second element is that we want to create a tipping point. We want enough people to jump in the water that everyone goes, oh, that looks like fun, and they all jump in with them. So we recommend that you don't just have your first gift secured, but you actually have your first 3 gifts secured. Now, these can be at 2 different giving levels. Maybe you have a donor starting you at $25,000 and another 2 donors jumping in the next level at $15,000. Or maybe you have a donor starting you at $1,000 and 2 donors jumping in at $500. But you want to make sure that as you work your way through each giving level, that those first 3 gifts are locked in and paddles go up quickly to create a tipping point where then you'll see surprise giving and other folks jump in. Now, the collection can be an area where we have seen organizations take their event from a $100,000 event to a $500,000 event quickly by having a strategy going into their collection. You may have seen or heard of a lot of these things, but I want to touch on them because they can be the thing that really catapults your fundraising in your paddle raise. A matching gift challenge is an opportunity for you to identify a corporate sponsor or an individual donor who will make a large gift that you can leverage as a match. For example, the next 20 gifts will be doubled by this donor, or the next 10 gifts will be doubled. Oftentimes, a matching gift challenge is most compelling if the donor only makes their donation if you reach that goal. Therefore, it allows your audience to really feel that like encouragement and excitement around reaching that goal. So sometimes in the middle of appeal, we'll have, a matching gift challenge for 10 gifts at $500. And as you get closer and closer, you can say, we're at 8 gifts or at 9 gifts, we need 1 more. It helps to build that energy and create a reason to be mobilized to give higher. We also sometimes will use an incentive, like everyone who gives at this level is being entered to win something. That's a great way to just sort of like bring a couple extra folks on board that maybe were thinking about it, but hadn't jumped in yet. It's just a way to sort of incentivize them and give them a little extra to jump in. If we're asking at a low dollar level, we expect a lot of gifts to come in and it's our last level of giving and they don't need the paddle anymore for the night. Oftentimes we'll just say, everyone, raising their paddle right now, we're coming around to collect them. It's called a sweep. It's a really easy, fast way to execute your paddle raise so that you don't have to read every single number at the lower dollar amounts where you might get a lot more people joining. And then finally, we will tally the fundraising from the paddle raise live in the moment and always work with our auctioneer or our fundraising host to live on the stage announce where we're at and encourage the audience to go a little bit higher. So for example, perhaps we've raised $48,000 and we're just $2,000 away from 50,000. Who can help me out with 4 gifts at the $500 level? That way you have just one little last extra push to help your audience get you to the final goal. And if you have a hybrid event, we always recommend that the paddle raise is used in the room, and folks are raising those paddles in the room. You can see a paddle going up here in the corner. And as the paddle is going up and the auctioneer is acknowledging the paddle, that the donors at home can contribute with their name on the screen so that everyone can see them, they can be recognized for their giving, and they can participate as well. Just a little bit about a paddle raise. I know a lot of folks will ask, but how do we actually integrate the paddle? I encourage you to check out our Removing Your Event Headaches webinar. It's just a simple webinar about some of the easy steps you can take on the logistics side to create a great guest experience. And one of those key elements is your paddle. We always leverage or utilize an auction platform like our friends at Greater Giving or One Cause to be able to have paddles pre-assigned for easy check-in, easy registration, and easy tracking of everything that your guest spends at the event. If you've never utilized a paddle before, this can be a game changer for your fundraising event. And we hope that you look into the paddle raise. We'll have a deep dive session and 2 demos at Elevate coming up March 12th and 13th. For those already registered, we're so excited to see you. We have a great event planned for you. For those who have not registered yet, we hope you will join us. And we hope you have a great day. Happy fundraising.